the tribe is broken apart. What we considered joyful was provided by a simple group of 50 people that you see every day and sort of keep track of you and make you feel like you're not just a drop in the ocean. When we come together, we can solve a lot of pain and create a lot of joy without that many resources.
Journalist and author Sebastian Junger. His new book is Tribe.
It's supposed to be about the bonds of brotherhood that developed between soldiers during war.
It's a fascinating look at the breakdown of community in America and what it means for returning veterans.
Wonderful. We are now a part of the tribe.
Maybe the problem isn't them, the vets. Maybe the problem is us.
We used to live in tribes.
Look at that. This guy's probably a war hero. Today we're talking about Tribe by Sebastian Junger.
And I've been covering wars for almost 20 years, and one of the remarkable things for me is how many soldiers find themselves missing it.
One of his prime examples is this interesting phenomenon where soldiers go to war and they experience incredible hardship, trauma, maybe PTSD, maybe hormone issues from concussions, all sorts of things.
There's no running water. There was no way to bathe. The guys were up there for a month at a time. They fought, they worked, they slept in the same clothes.
And they come back home and they miss it. And it's like, what do you miss? The tribe is what Sebastian Junger believes they miss. It's incredibly addictive. You re-enlist over and over again to recapture that, despite the fact that you're sweating in a desert, covered in, 70 pounds of gear, and surrounded by dudes, and most of them are heterosexual. Interesting. That's why I think he picks that image. Perhaps the single most startling fact about America is that alone among modern nations that have become world powers, it did so while butted up against 3,000 miles of howling wilderness populated by Stone Age tribes. That's the craziest period in history. And what he brings up here is, as part of that interaction, something happened that a lot of people don't talk about, which is a lot of white people from Europe came over on the ships with all the regalia. A lot of them left to join tribes, but very few Native Americans permanently joined European society. A lot of people went native, as they say, and either got married to a Native American or just joined the tribe. Some prisoners ended up joining and not wanting to leave, and they would have these hostage exchanges where white people were crying because they were leaving their Native American bride to go back to white society, and they felt like they had found a new home. Some of the prisoners had to be bound. They had names like Red Jacket, Big Head, Sore Mouth, Sour Plums. They didn't want to leave. Once again, that element of a tribe speaks to something deeper in us that's hard to quantify, but absolutely kind of the juice and meaning of life. Mobile and semi-permanent encampments that were more or less run by consensus, broadly egalitarian. So that's some interesting things about the tribe. They're moving all the time, and they're egalitarian. So there's no one leader. If you are the leader, it's probably because you're one of the best hunters or you're one of the wisest people in the tribe. And then there was a lot of feminine-run societies in Native American cultures too, since they were in control of the tribe itself, which was so important. Individual authority was earned rather than seized and imposed only on people who were willing to accept it. So you were free to take on authority. There was no sense of duty. Anyone who didn't like it was free to move somewhere else, go to another tribe, free agency. Even Ben Franklin chimes in. He tells a friend, look, if a white guy goes to see his relations and makes one Indian ramble with them, there's no persuading him to return. It is a good time. I'm surprised Ben Franklin didn't join a tribe. The intensely communal nature of the Indian tribe held an appeal that the material benefits of Western civilization did not. So imagine how far away we are from this idea. Some of us go camping, some of us might live with a partner, but very few people have anything that could be considered close to this. You almost wonder, could you have the trappings of society and this as well? Very few people are trying it, and I'm interested in the van dwelling community. I'm interested in rock climbers and people who kind of live freely and openly, and I'm interested in communal housing lately as sort of ways in for how small groups of people could band together and build what amounts to a tribe. This book is all about that hard to replace something. that, you know, just being around another human being gives you, and especially when you're around people over and over again for long periods of time. I know we all hated school, but sometimes I look back and I think there was something nice about that, right? To be invested in the same people. That's probably the closest most of us come to a tribe. And imagine nowadays, a lot of kids aren't even doing that. Gosh, I feel depressed. What could it be? Oh my gosh, I'm lonely. Yeah, it's totally normal.
Having a negative reaction to this society actually might mean that you're doing quite well.
We have to remember that feeling exists. Talk to the woman at the supermarket and get really weird and vulnerable with my friends, start experiencing those benefits. One study in the 1960s found the nomadic Kung people of the Kalahari Desert needed to work as little as 12 hours a week in order to survive, roughly 1/4 of the hours of the average urban executive at the time. That's another element that he brings up. For most of our existence, we've just had to cover our food, our shelter. Who are we going to lay with? How are we going to fight off those people? These questions, while dramatic and terrifying at times, only took about 12 hours a week. You're working outside, you've got all your food covered, and then you've got a lot of time to socialize and enjoy and be physical and just, you know, basically live life. Everybody does have a choice to make. Stuff, relationships, and experiences. They do come into conflict with each other. If you're working all the time, you're not gonna be like these Native American guys and just invent lacrosse. You know, you're gonna be stressed. You're gonna be taking Xanax. The Kung had far fewer belongings than Westerners, but their lives are under much greater personal control. That's another thing. If you know how to get your food and you know how to live on less and you have people to help support everything you need, you're pretty unstoppable unless somebody invades you and spreads disease, which they did.
You now understand that a good, meaningful, happy life requires the proximity of others, requires being part of a group where they need you. You have to put the group first. And when you do that, there's a reciprocal arrangement where they will also put you first. That is what humans are looking for.